day. So this talk, and indeed this entire event, is sponsored by the Winnipeg Humane Society. So I would like to ask you to welcome Javier Wasinski, who is the CEO of the Humane Society, who will introduce Ellie Lax.
Yes, but you can't turn it once you're on.
I'd rather be just the guy from the Humane Society. I don't like titles, but thank you so much. Veg Fest continues to grow. I believe it's our fourth Veg Fest, and we're so proud to support this event and for people to explore not only the link between humans and animals and the importance of respecting all creatures, but also this funny intersection between climate change, nutrition, and what are we doing to animals. So thank you for being here, for exploring Veg Fest with us. And I am extremely proud to be here to present Ellie Lax, and Ellie and Jay and Sky came 11 hours from California in a very shaky plane because of the storm. So not the best welcome to Canada and to Winnipeg. We're extremely happy to have you here. And there is a very long resume here, and just how amazing Ellie is. She is the founder of the Gentle Barn, and they're located in Santa Clarita, California. I think they also are using me to present it because I can speak Spanish, so I can say Santa Clarita. The Gentle Barn, they rescue, rehabilitate, and give sanctuary to severely abused animals. And that in itself is amazing, and they have helped already thousands of animals through the farm and the foundation that is supporting the work that they do. And as someone that is also in the nonprofit world, if you can ever consider a donation to any of these organizations, we surely will be happy to receive that support. She's also a professional animal trainer, specializes in working with severely abused and mistrusting dogs. Ellie has dedicated her life to being a voice for the voiceless. And there's this fascinating intersection between humans and animals. And it doesn't matter if it's a dog, a cat, or a cow, or a hog. That connection is real. And Ellie has a background from CSU in early childhood development, or child development, and she has specialized in special needs children. So she has connected special needs kids, inner city kids, with the animals that they are rehabilitating, and making that connection. They're helping both the animals and these kids from inner city and at risk and special needs. So that's absolutely fantastic. So the Gentle Barn is home to over 170 animals. Ellie manages Gentle Barn with the help of her husband Jay, who's here as well, and Sky, that has been a champ and super well behaved, and it's only 6 months old. And through the rescue rehabilitation program, Ellie and Jay get to see miracles that connect animals and children every day, and in a very different scale, but we also see it at the Winnipeg Humane Society. So she's also the author of a remarkable book, My Gentle Barn, Creating a Sanctuary Where Animals Feel and Children Learn. It was published in 2014, and I believe we have the book here, and we have the author here, so if you buy the book, you'll likely get the signed copy of said book, so I encourage you to do that, and I'm sure it's going to help the Gentle Barn. And with all that, without further ado, I present you to Ellie.
Thank you so much. So, in the words of the late Harvey Milk, I am Ellie Lax, and I am here to recruit you to the greatest movement of all times. Every other movement in history needed some kind of political action to end it. So the atrocities of the Holocaust and World War II were ended by a world war. The horrors of human slavery were ended by a civil war. the women's and minorities and LGBTQ rights make progress every day because of politics and law. But animals will only get their freedom because of us as individuals. It's the only movement in history that depends on us as individuals to do it, which is a lot of responsibility, but gives us so much power and so much strength as individuals, and we can do this. Whether we're aware of it or not, whether we're conscious or blissfully ignorant, every single solitary one of us is voting with our dollars every single day. We are the voice for the animals, and we are voting for them with our dollars. So everywhere we go, every single thing that we eat, every place that we go, we are either voting with our dollars for violence, disease, and the inevitable demise of this planet, or we are voting every time we eat something for peace, for health, and for sustainability. And every single vote counts. My story started as a kid. I was born an animal lover, but I didn't know the connection between how much I loved animals and what I was eating. I ate what was put in front of me, and I loved animals, and I didn't realize that there was a disconnect there. Until I was 11 years old, and there was a chicken in my school. And the auditorium was full of kids running around, chasing each other, laughing and talking really loud. And in the corner of the school was a little chicken who was absolutely terrified, and she was trembling violently. And what was interesting to me is how no one else in the entire room noticed her but me. But I went over to her, and I pulled her out of the cat carrier, and I put her in my arms, and I smoothed down her feathers, and I told her she wasn't alone, and I told her that I loved her, and eventually she stopped trembling, and she fell asleep in my arms. Well, a few minutes later, the principal came in, pulled her out of my arms, and said, "I have to get her to the slaughterhouse," and ran out of the school. And my little 11-year-old brain sat there going, what in the world is she talking about? And then I understood for the first time in my life that chicken and rice is the same thing as chicken and animal. And I went home that day, and I announced to my parents that I would never eat animals again. So every time I would go to the lakes and woods on my adventures, and I would find animals that fell out of their nest or got lost or injured, I would bring them home, and my plan became to have a house full of animals that I saved, and they would be my friends. My poor parents were not amused, and they kept taking the animals away, and I'd come home to find them gone. And I kept saying, "How can you do this to me?" And they'd say, "Ellie, when you grow up, you can have as many animals as you want." So I now have close to 200 animals. But I would yell at my poor parents, "You'll see, when I grow up, I'll have a huge place full of animals, and I'll show the world how beautiful they are." And I pretty much yelled that at anyone that would listen. And I became obsessed with that idea. It wasn't until almost 30 years later that I actually started the Gentle Barn, because I was a young adult living in a little house with a half-acre backyard, and I was doing an errand. And driving down the street, I discovered a petting zoo I'd never seen before. And just being nosy, I parked and went in just to see what they were doing with the animals. And there was a tremendous amount of neglect and abuse that was going on there. Horrible, horrible abuse. And I was absolutely sick to my stomach, but more horrible than the overgrown hooves, and more horrible than them beating the ponies to keep going around in circles, and more horrible than the dead animals in cages and no water, was the fact that the place was full of people, and there it was again, not one of them could see the suffering right in front of them. They were too busy smiling and skipping around and posing their kids next to these dilapidated animals, and it made me sick. So I was running for the door to get out of there as fast as possible, and blocking the exit was a very, very old goat that looked like she was about to drop dead any second. And she looked me in the eyes, and she asked me for help, and she stopped me in my tracks. So I said, "Well, I guess I could bring home a goat." So I went to find the owner and said, "Hey, can I have that goat?" And she said no. And I said, "Well, can I buy her, name your price?" And she said no. And I said, "Well, she's gonna die here, so I'm gonna stay here till you say yes." And I stayed there for 12 days. On the 13th day, she finally found me and said, "Take the goat and get the heck out of here." And I brought Mary the goat home. I found a mobile vet to come and treat her. He taught me how to feed her, how to massage her deformed legs so she could walk again. And a few months later, she was bouncing around my backyard as happy as can be. And that Mary the goat put me on my life's path and connected me to my life's purpose and led me to open the Gentle Barn, which 20 years later is now a 20-year-old national organization with locations in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. And what we do is we take in animals that have nowhere else to go because they're too old, too sick, too lame, or too scared to be adoptable. We bring them in, we rehabilitate them with vet care, but we also use acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractics, deep tissue massage therapy, ultrasound, ice therapy, water therapy, energetic healing, nutritional supplements, and lots of love. And the animals get a chance to heal, and then when the animals are ready, we partner with them to heal people with the same stories of abuse and neglect, and to connect children to the love and magic of animals. So I've been living in a barnyard for 20 years, and I have seen things with animals that most people don't get to see. I mean, let's face it, we're covering our neighborhoods up in concrete, we're chopping down the trees, and we're getting rid of the animals from our neighborhoods. Except for dogs and cats, but farm animals don't live in our neighborhoods anymore. So we don't get to know them. We don't get to know their affections and their intelligence and their personalities. But I got to, and Jay and I got to, because we've been living there for 20 years. We've seen animals fall in love. We've seen them celebrate birth. We've seen them mourn death. We've seen them have arguments and make up. We've seen them heal people. And we've seen their intelligence and their affection every single day. And it's been an absolute honor to work beside them, to love them, to know them, and to see who they are. So I want to tell you 2 stories today. The first is of a little calf named Ferdinand. We rescued him a little over 2 years ago. He was a little teeny tiny black calf, and he was, at 8 weeks old, suddenly orphaned. We tried very hard to save his mother, but we couldn't. She was already bought from a slaughterhouse that would not relinquish her. Jay tried very, very hard to appeal to their good senses, but it didn't work. But we were able to save him. So we brought Ferdinand home at 8 weeks old. And it was probably the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. All he did for 3 straight days is run in circles and cry for his mom. It was awful, awful. So me and my daughter was 11 years old then. Me and my daughter moved into the barnyard to be with him because he can't be alone. So me and my daughter moved into the barnyard. We had people bringing us food, and we slept with him all night, and we were with him all day long. And every time he would cry out, we would answer him and tell him how sorry we are. And every time he would lay down, we would lay down next to him, and we would read to him, and we would sing to him, and we would paint the picture of what his life could look like. We would tell him, I know this is awful, and it's unfair, and it's unjust, and I'm so sorry. And the only thing you truly need is to have your mom again, and it's the one thing that I can't do for you. But one day, you're going to move past this, and one day you're going to recover. And when you do, you will be able to jump and kick and run and play and see what your body can do. And one day you'll play with big bouncy balls, and you'll have volunteers with you all day long, holding your head in their laps. We will read to you, and we will sing to you. And then one day, when you're truly ready, you will become an ambassador. And through sharing your story, and through sharing who you are, you will open hearts and you will change the world. And I told him this every single day, and I still tell him this every single day. Well, after his 30-day quarantine, he was never, ever alone. He had people, I enlisted the help of volunteers and staff, and we slept with him all day long, and we talked to him we slept with him all night long, we talked to him all day long, he was never alone. And when his quarantine was over, it was time to partner him with an animal. So I went down to my cow area to look like who could be a good candidate to partner with him. And I saw little Lucy. Lucy was a little teeny miniature cow, but she was very nurturing. She was one of our older cows, and she was very, very nurturing and loving, and I thought, oh my God, she'd be perfect for him. So I went up to her and I said, Lucy, will you help me help an orphan calf recover? Will you help me bond with him and love him? And she looked back at me and she said, oh, I would be so honored to. And so I walked her from the cow area all the way up the hill to the nursery where we were keeping Ferdinand. And it was love at first noon. The minute she laid eyes on him, She licked him till he was soaking wet, and she ate with him, and she patiently played with him, and she was with him every moment. And she loved him so much that she produced milk for him. We had her for 10 years. She didn't have a baby, and she didn't have milk. But she loved him so much that her body produced milk for him. And I had never heard of such a thing. But apparently, human women could lactate when they adopt a baby, so I guess it's something that us mammals can do. And it was amazing. She nursed him every day she nursed him 3 times a day, every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then at nighttime, as it was getting dark, she would give him a bath till he was soaking wet, and she'd put him to bed. And it was so lovely watching him love him and nurture him. And then when he got older, we took her and him down to the cow area, and she introduced him to all the other cows. And because it was just him and her, and all of us doting over him, as he got older, he got a little, shall we say, spoiled, because he was so loved. And so when he went to the other cows, he wasn't mean, but he was a little pushy with the females, just like a little disrespectful. And so we have a really huge cow named Forgiveness, and Forgiveness took one look at his bad behavior, and he was like, And he used his head, and he pushed him in a corner, and he kept him in the corner until he said sorry. And he was like, you will respect the ladies. So now Ferdinand is 2 years old, and he is very gentle to the ladies. And he did step into the life that I pictured for him. He does play with big bouncy balls, and he does jump up and down and kick and see what his body can do. And he is becoming a remarkable ambassador. But a few months ago, we woke up one morning and Lucy couldn't stand up. She was older. And so after spending 24 hours trying every single solitary thing that we could, we eventually realized that this was the end. Watching the family support Ferdinand and say goodbye to Lucy was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. When she couldn't get up, the entire family formed a circle around her, and they did not leave her side. And we were treating her and doing all these treatments for her, and they let us work, but they did not leave. And during mealtime, they would go off and eat, but one of them would stay with her. And then 20 minutes later, someone would come and relieve that first one, and then 20 minutes later, a third one would come and relieve. So they never left her alone, not once, not ever. The second day when we realized that she would never walk again and it was time to let her out of her body, the whole family was around her. And I don't know how they knew this, but an hour before the vet got there, the family simultaneously got up and left the barn, leaving Ferdinand and Lucy alone together. And Ferdinand and Lucy lay down facing each other for an entire hour. And I realized that they were giving them privacy, so I left the barn also, and I watched from a distance. And Ferdinand and Lucy said everything they had to say to each other. She probably told him how proud she was of him. She probably told him that he was going to be an amazing ambassador, and that he had to step up and change the world for her. And he probably thanked her for being his mom, and for raising him to be such a fine young man. When the vet arrived, Ferdinand got up on his own volition and walked out of the barn to join the others, and I held Lucy in my arms as she left her body. Just before the vet was about to help her out of her body, I looked at Lucy and said, Lucy, are you sure you can't get up? Are you sure you can't walk? He already lost a mom. He needs you. He's not going to be okay. This is going to be devastating for him. Are you sure you can't stand up? And she looked me right in the eyes, and she said, if I didn't think he was ready, I wouldn't be leaving. He is more resilient than you think he is. He is stronger than you will ever know. Believe in him. And then the vet came, and she passed away in my arms. And she was right. The family formed a circle around Ferdinand, and every day after breakfast, they would all line up and lick him. They would all take turns grooming him. They all lay down and slept with him. They all ate with him. They all were there to support him and strengthen him. And it was really hard in the beginning. They were all very, very sad. But little by little, Ferdinand opened himself up to the kindness from his cow family and the love and energy work that we were giving him. And he went through his recovery. And now, a few months later, he started to play again. He is becoming an amazing ambassador. Just Thursday, I hosted a group of boys from a probation camp. And he stepped right in the middle of these boys. And he smelled their shoes, and he let them pet them, and he let them hug them, and he held them enough times how proud of him I was. He's becoming an ambassador. And I'm so, so proud of him. Animals love their babies just like we do. Animals celebrate birth just like we do. Animals mourn death just like we do. They have best friends. They fall in love. They get married. They form families and they become aunties, uncles, cousins, brothers and sisters to each other. They want to be with each other. They want to love each other. They want to raise their babies. And they want to live in a world where they have the things that we take for granted on a daily basis. The next story I wanted to tell you was, so we rescued a turkey named Chloe from Thanksgiving. And she was very scared at first. She was very dirty and filthy and scared, and we nursed her back to health, and we showed her safety and love and patience, and in time she grew to trust us. So she became so trusting that everybody loved to cuddle her and pet her, and we used to take her to events so that people could pet her and meet a turkey and see how wonderful they are. So at this one event, she was used to being brought to events. We would go to events, we would sit her on the grass, she would take a nice nap while we set up the table and the booth and the tents, and then when the event opened, everybody would come over to pet her and hug her, and she would close her eyes and she would give all her energy to these people, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. Well, this one event that we went to was the first time, it was a bigger event and it had a stage with musicians. And so we put her on the grass and she's sleeping and we're setting up our tent and our tables, and all of a sudden the band starts to play. And she opened her eyes, got up, and started running to the stage. So I'm like, where are you going? So I ran after her and I'm like, darling, you have to stay at the booth. You know the drill. And I picked her up and I brought her back to the booth. Well, the minute I turned my back, off she goes again. So I'm running after her, and this time I'm like, where is she even going? So this time I didn't pick her up. I'm like, let me just follow her and see where she's going. She runs in front of the stage. She stands front row center. She closes her eyes and she starts swaying to the music. And I'm like, there's no way this is happening. So, not wanting to disturb her, I sat in the front row and I watched my turkey bliss out to this music. And people started coming and dancing. And all these people were dancing with my turkey. She did that for 3 hours. And the band finally took a lunch break. And when the music stopped, she kind of finally came to and looked at me like, oh crap, we gotta get back to the booth. And she walked herself back to the booth. So we went home that day and I was like, we need a radio in the barn immediately. And so we set up a radio, and no matter where the radio was and no matter what we were playing, it doesn't matter if it was rock or country or pop or jazz, it doesn't matter. Whatever we were playing, she would park herself next to the radio, close her eyes, and sway to the music. So a few months later, we got a group of special needs kids, or kids with special needs, and it was a high school. They were 16 years old, and they all ranged with different issues that they were working through and different functionalities. So they came into the barnyard for the first time, and I wanted to introduce them to the animals. So I started with a chicken, and I brought a little chicken for all the kids to pet. And when I went to the last girl, let's call her Julia, I went to the last girl, the counselors ran in front of her and said, no, she can't pet the chicken. And I said, why? And they said, she has fits of rage, she bites, she throws things, she claws, she's very dangerous, she's unpredictable. We cannot trust her with a small chicken. And I'm hearing their words, and I'm believing them. But when I looked at her face, her sweet, innocent face, and I just thought, So this is what I told them. I said, here's the thing. Everyone that comes to the Gentle Barn, I don't care if they're a visitor, I don't care if they're a group of kids that we're trying to heal, I don't care if they're an animal. Anyone that comes to the Gentle Barn gets to tell me who they are. I don't care what they've been through, I don't care what they've done, and I don't care what people say about them. When they're standing in front of me, they get to tell me who they are. So I want to give Julia the same chance. So they kind of rolled their eyes and were a little frustrated with me, but they said fine, and they moved out of the way. And I brought the chicken over to Julia, and she pet her. She had a huge smile on her face. Well, a little backstory on Julia. Julia was born blind, but otherwise normally functioning. And what I found out later is what she loved to do was sing and dance. So her whole life, she loved to sing and dance. Now, when she was 4 years old, something very, very traumatic happened to her, and she stopped speaking. So I met her when she was 16 years old. She hadn't spoken a word in 12 years. She had speech therapists, she had psychiatrists, therapists. She would not speak one single word, and she had fits of rage wherever she went, in the classroom and at home. So it became, for the 2 years that she was enrolled in our program, number one, she never, ever, ever was angry at the Gentle Barn, ever. She always had an enormous smile plastered on her face. She hugged the cows, she led the horses, she held the chickens, she laid in the straw with the pigs. She loved these animals. And it was the only place on earth that she was ever not angry. And so the parents and the teachers, they couldn't believe it. So by the second year that they were in our program, it became my mission in life to help her speak. And I remember them saying that she loved to sing and dance, and I had a turkey that liked to sing and dance. So one day I went up to her and I said, I want to introduce you to somebody. So we went over and I said, this is Chloe. And I told her the whole story of the whole music thing and how she loves music and how it's so important that she has music every single day. So I said to her, will you help me heal Chloe? Will you help me give her music, which is the only thing she really wants? And she nodded her head yes. So we would sit, every time she would come out, we would sit on the ground and I would sing out loud and she would pet Chloe. But as the months unfolded, she started humming under her breath. And then a few more months later, she started singing out loud with me. And then by the time she graduated our program, she was fully vocal. Animals saved me as a child. I was abused as a child, and so was Jay, and we were both saved by animals. So we grew up with a very firm belief that animals are angels among us. They're here to heal us. They're here to teach us about forgiveness and courage and unconditional love. They're here to make us better human beings. And they do make us better human beings every single day. We're here to lift each other up. We're here to be the voice for each other. We're here to live in harmony and share this beautiful planet together. And how we got so lost, how we turned this slave mentality where we're exploiting them, enslaving them, eating them, wearing them. How in the world did that happen? I don't know. But it's up to every single solitary one of us to right this, to make it right. And this movement, this animal movement, will only happen when every single solitary one of us, as individuals, takes a stand for gentleness. And many of us think, well, what's little old me gonna do? I mean, look at the problem out there. What difference does it make what I eat? I can't even make a dent. We are far more powerful than we think we are. When one person goes vegan, we save over 200 animals a year. That's thousands of animals over the course of one lifetime. When one of us goes vegan, we save 1,100 gallons of water a day. That might not mean much to you here in Canada, but in Los Angeles, we're in a really bad drought. So worldwide, the cumulative effect now will end this drought. When one of us goes vegan, we save an acre of trees every year, which will come back to deforestation and make sure we have a planet to live on. And when we go vegan, we reduce our own risk of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol level, and dementia by 90%. We don't need to be this sick. This is needless suffering for all of us. A lot of people ask me, why are you so hopeful? Like, don't you see what's going on out there? It's awful. We're damned. It's not going to end well. But I always skip through my days with a lot of hope, and people ask me that all the time. Well, I didn't start hopeful. Well, I started hopeful, but in the first year of the Gentle Barn, experiencing, one after the other of these horrendous stories and the horrendous things that humanity is capable of. I would think, oh my God, I heard the last worst story, and then the next story would be worse, and I'd be like, so there was a point in the first year of the Gentle Barn where I said, I made a mistake. I'm not strong enough for this. I can't do this. This is going to destroy me. And I kind of argued with me spiritually, with myself, saying like, I can't do this. And then my higher self would say, well, you have to do this. And I would say, no, I quit. And my higher self would say, no, this is why you're here. And after that whole argument, I realized, okay, fine, that's why I'm here. But how in the world am I going to survive this? How am I going to stay hopeful? How am I going to stay strong? How is this work not going to eat me alive? So I came up with 5 things that help me every day stay strong, and I want to share them with you. The first of which is, I want to share my message gently. Because when I don't share the message gently, I feel like, I call this age the Great Awakening, right? It's the age of the Great Awakening. It's the informational age. It's when we pull the blinders off. It's when we realize what's really happening behind slaughterhouses and dairies and poultry farms, and we get to make a gentle choice for ourselves, right? So with this information, you want to run through the streets shaking people. I want to slap people. I want to wake people up. But of course, you can't do that. And not only can I not do it because it's not effective, but I also can't do it because it makes me an angry person. And I don't want to be an angry person. So the first vow that I came up with to help me stay hopeful is to spread the message gently. Have compassion for where people are at. Because I have to have compassion for the part of me before I knew. We all know when we know, and we all don't know when we don't know. So share the message gently, stay gentle, stay kind, stay compassionate, stay loving, stay open to people. And then the second thing is I had to lose my attachment to the outcome. So, I would have people over and I would have them hug cows and I would have them learn the stories of the animals and I would have them cuddle turkeys. And then I would be so sure that they were going to leave vegan. And when they didn't, I would be like, what? So I had to lose the attachment to their outcome. I had to realize that every single person is on their own path, their own journey. Everyone is evolving at their own pace. We are all evolving at our own pace. And when they change, or if they change, it is none of my business. I shine my light, I share my message gently, and then I release them and stop that attachment to the outcome. That helped a lot. The third thing was I had to come up with a way to protect kind of my inner circle. Everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, right? So some people can look at slaughterhouse footage or look at really horrible pictures and it kind of motivates them to be stronger and more convicted. For me personally, it debilitates me. It literally puts me in a fetal position on the floor. I will spend weeks there. And it makes me want to go postal and get off this planet as fast as possible. So for me, I had to come to a place where I had to protect myself. I want to do what I can do to keep me strong, motivated, passionate, and full of energy to do this work every single day and not get compassion fatigue. And the way that I did that was to really make sure that I wasn't seeing the things that would bring me to my knees and not allow me to stand up again. So I surround myself with positive people. I participate in positive conversations. I meet people that are full of hope. And I try to create that inner circle that strengthens me. The fourth thing that I did was, and this is one of the most important things, is we have to celebrate the victories. Yes, we have more work to do. Yes, there's problems out there. But oh my God, we are making strides every single day. Every day. There's a new vegan restaurant or a new vegan person or a new child coming on this planet that is vegan from the get-go because his soul just knows. There's new oncologists and cardiologists that are telling their patients to adopt a vegan diet to heal. Fast food restaurants, for God's sakes, have vegan burgers. Burger King has vegan burgers. Kentucky Fried Chicken, I don't know if there's Kentucky Fried Chicken in Canada, but they have vegan chicken now. Like, it is mainstream. Target, Walmart, Kmart, they all have vegan products. It has gone mainstream. We are making progress every single solitary day, and it is very, very exciting. So yeah, there's more work to do. We need to be aware of the problem, but we need to rejoice also. And we need to go heck yeah when something great happens or a new celebrity becomes vegan. Those are the things that are going to keep us strong and keep us hopeful. And then the fifth, and possibly the most important one, is I visualize every single day the world that I want to create. When I was little, before going to bed, I would visualize what the gentle barn would look like. I would close my eyes, and no one taught me this. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how I knew to do it. But I would go to sleep at night, and I would close my eyes, and I would dream about the gentle barn and all the animals I would get to love, and what it would look like, and the fences, and the barns, and the trees, and the clouds above the sky. It was so real to me that I could taste it, smell it, and touch it. Now, it took me 30 years, but I finally manifested my dreams, and now I get to live my dream every single day. We have to do the same thing with the world that we want to create. We want to create a gentle world. It starts in our mind first. So every single solitary morning for 5 minutes, and I even set my alarm because you don't want to go too long, because if it takes 30 minutes, you might not have time the next day. But if it's just 5 minutes, you'll have time for that every single day. Every single day, I close my eyes and I visualize a beautiful world. And I can smell it, taste it, and touch it. And if we can't smell it, taste it, and touch it, who else is going to? So if we create it in our minds, and we can feel the joy of having it now in our bodies, then we can create it for real. So let's do that together. Will everybody close their eyes for a minute? Just get in a comfortable position. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Close your eyes. And let's take 3 lovely breaths in and out. Breathe in, all the way in, so you can feel the energy flow from the soles of your feet, all the way through your body, and then exhale. And let's do 3 of those where you can feel the light and the energy of the earth coming through your feet and into your body, and then breathe it out again. And now visualize sweet, spongy, fertile earth beneath your feet. Visualize looking into a forest with trees so tall they touch the sky. Visualize thundering hooves, and you look to your right and there's a band of wild horses thundering past, and everyone stops what they're doing to wave to them because they are our friends. Visualize gardens everywhere you look. Big, rich gardens growing vegetables and fruit that are purple and red and orange and blue and green. And watch everyone picking from them. The gardens and the trees are nourishing our bodies, and we are full of energy and vitality. Picture hearing honking up ahead, and you look up and you see a whole gang of Canadian geese flying overhead. And again, everybody stops what they're doing and waves to them because they're our neighbors. Picture people hugging cows, cuddling turkeys, holding chickens in our arms, kissing their heads. Visualize people laying next to pigs and giving them tummy rubs as they grunt thank yous. Visualize a beautiful stream running past, leading to an ocean that is full of coral and fish of every color. Visualize dolphins and whales leaping out of the water. Visualize thriving marine life. Visualize being one with the planet, in harmony with all of nature. And living gently with every single animal of every shape, size, and color sharing this planet together. Visualize what a beautiful, beautiful planet this is and can even be better. This is the planet that I work for. This is the planet that I live for. This is the planet that I believe in with every fiber of my being. I am Ellie Lax, and I have come to recruit you. Will you join me? You can stop meditating now. Will you join me? Thank you. I want to share a little story with you of one of our rescues. And as soon as it's done, I'll be outside signing books. I would love to see you over there. We're live. We're live streaming it too. Thanks for joining us. What button should I push?